Yeah. Okay, guys. So in previous class we saw how to create application, and this was the idea, and we did something like this, this thing, right? So we have implemented patient and passport mapping. So initially we focused on patient class because this was our primary class. Okay, how patient will work. For that, I have created one endpoint, patient controller, just a simple post mapping, which creates patient, and this was the end result. So we end up with one record in our database. So this was working fine, and we have also used one new thing we haven't discussed that yet. It was cascading. So I already gave you one task. So go through that and check out what is cascading and what is Lombok library. So apart from that, now in today's class, we will try to complete the passport side. So we are going to perform, the basic operation on passport. But before that, I want to fix this part because this is kind of repetitive code, and we have already done this thing, mapper class. So let's quickly move all these stuffs to mapper class. Okay, so that's a mapper class. I'll call this patient mapper class. So Java class patient mapper, capital M. Okay, there it is. See, there are multiple ways and which can be really effective when it comes to mapper, but this is one of the simplest way of data transfer from DT to entity. You know what? There are multiple libraries which do the same task. So for now, just absorb this much. Like we are going moving data from DT to entity and entity to DTU. Once you say, okay, we are comfortable, now you can teach some new or other ways to perform this mapper. So I'll teach you from the libraries. Like there are multiple libraries which can do your task in, in quick snapshot. Okay. So, but for now, let's do some hard work, huh? Boring work. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this code, going mapper, and I have to create two methods, one from to DTU and to entity, like we did earlier. So public, I'll make this method static, right? So we don't need to create object. Public this and patient DTU. I'll call this to DTU. And if we are converting to DTU, that means data is coming from patient object. Patient object, this, and here we go. So there it is coming, and we need to create object of patient DTU as well. DTU done. So this is patient, which takes this ID, name, email, contact number, then passport object is here, and then setting patient. Uh, we are getting wrong thing here. Just a second. Let's go this way out. My bad. It was this. Okay. And we need DB patient. So instead of DB patient, I'll just call it patient. I copied the wrong code. Why I'm doing this? Okay, patient DTO. Okay, and this is patient. And then return that patient DTO. So patient return ID, name, email, and other stuffs, and then we'll get data from passport as well. There it is, and done. And let's not call it response. This is fine because it was required there, but for now here it is fine. So paste, and paste. So patient details here, which is taking data. Fine. Okay, so this method is done. It says to DTU. Now something similar we have to create public static patient to entity. And if we are getting entity, so that has to be go through DTU. Okay, so now I'll go back to service layer, copy above code till here, mapper, paste. And this will take patient DTU. Okay, patient is here. DTO this ID not required from here, and ID name this, and then return patient. See, this is not final. Maybe when it comes to coding and other stuffs, we will need to fix it. Okay, maybe we need to add some more classes here. Oh, sorry, more fields in terms of ID. Okay, it looks fine. So what I'll do, for now I'll comment it to test, and then later we will remove it as well. Okay, so commented this whole code, and then I'll call patient mapper there, then dot to entity, because that this goes in database, and I'll pass it to here, and whatever comes back, copy, paste, and equals. Okay, this is done. So it goes in database, save it, and once it's done, it will also return some data. So again, I'll call patient mapper dot to DTO. This time I have to return database value to DTO layer. So this goes it here, and it will give me patient stuff. Paste it here. Then this gets returned. Okay, so everything's fine. We just change it, and you can see lots of lines were there. Now it is only 3-4 lines, just this line. Okay, it goes till 46. Fine, let's run the code and see. Executed the code. Okay, service is up. Going back, let's make it Arjun. Okay, okay, that's it. Let's send the request. Request sent. Okay, looks fine. No issue or error. And if we go back to database, refresh, we have one more entry. ID is 2 for passport. And if we go back, refresh, this one. Okay, good, it's working. So mapper class is working fine. And this is not new, we have already done this. Since we have done this already, I don't think we need this whole commented code. So let's remove, get rid of all this thing, and same here. Here, let's keep a break. You can actually read it, okay? Otherwise it's not required in real scenarios. Okay, looks fine. Any question? So we have just fixed the service layer of patient class. Now we will do the same for passport class. Okay, so passport class is already ready. That means all the operation, all the basic CRUD operations, or maybe some advanced CRUD operation will be performed only on passport class. There will be no link of patient class there. So if you think about in future, if you want to list out all the passport from the database, so you cannot go through one patient, because one patient only has one passport. That's his or her. But what about all the passport you need to fetch, right? Maybe some you need to summarize them or extract some, Excel or something. You need to conclude all the passport details. So in that case, you need to perform or create some APIs which are specifically to passport class. So in that case, we need to create again all the layers. So some of the layers already created, like DTO is fine. We already have a passport DTO. We have passport DAO layer. That's good. There it is. Let's close all the stuffs. Focus on passport. So passport entity is good. Then it's counter DTO. It's also fine. Passport DAO is also good. Then yeah, that's it. We only have these three things, and of course service, which is empty right now. So let's do one save operation here as well. Again, one post request. So it says public, then passport DTO because it has to return. Then I'll say save passport, and it also takes passport DTO, and so this will create or save your record. Okay, now we need to create its IMPL. So right click on the IMPL package, new Java class. I'll call this passport service IMPL. Done. This class says implements passport service, and definitely mark this class at service generation. So Spring Boot knows, okay, that's a service layer, and it will do all the auto wiring stuffs, which is really easy. And let's do that as well. Private passport DAO auto wired. Okay, and definitely we need to override method, so implement method, and done. Okay, it's done. We'll come back to this class, but before, let's create one controller. So like we have patient controller, we need to create one passport controller. So Java class, call this passport controller. Done. Let's mark this class with at rest controller, and and then we need to create one public method which returns passport detail, never entity. Okay, never return entity from the endpoints. Then save passport, capital P, and then it also takes one argument, so we'll call this request body passport detail body starts. We need to auto wire service layer here, private passport service net auto wired. Let's call this, return it as well, return passport service dot say passport detail gets passed, and then okay, so we have one basic endpoint ready. Okay, looks fine. Let's go back to service file and do the operation. So we are going to do the same operation here, you know, passport to D2 and that stuff. But thing is, this class does not have that much fields, so it will be fairly easy. So I don't need to write comment again. You guys already know what's happening. So we need to create passport object here, passport, and then passport dot set ID not required, right? We just need passport number that comes from D2 class. Done. Then we use passport DAO dot save, and then passport. It returns passport, and then it returns that object, the passport DTO. So DTO, call it response, passport DTO equals DTO dot set. This time we will set ID, and that comes from DP passport. And then this set passport number, DP passport number. Okay, everything's aligned, looks good, and then we will return this response passport DTO. Okay, fine. So our service layer is also good, looks fine, and I again forgot to give the endpoint name. Post mapping here we'll say passports plural. Okay, okay, this also looks fine. And why don't we just create a mapper? Let's create one class, passport mapper. Okay, great. Then create two methods, public passport detail to detail. Then it takes passport object reference. Done. And here we can use this code, return response, not response, not required here at least. Let's call it passport detail. Passport detail done. Now let's create. This has to be static. So static public static to entity, and then let's copy this code. 2 lines only required. Return passport. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, fine, looks fine. So let's go back and fix this. So remove this passport mapper dot to entity. It takes passport detail. Store that in a passport object. Done. And then this line goes away from here. Passport mapper dot to detail pass DB passport and done. Okay, so in 3 lines, 3 4 lines, next we are doing this operation on service layer. Okay, it's good. Let's run the endpoint application, and in the meantime, let's create one endpoint for this. So duplicate tab. Let's save one passport in DB. Okay, it's good. Going to body. This time body will be simple. No more extra stuffs. Just this. Even DT not required, right? Simple, really simple thing you're going to pass here. Modifier, and it will be passports. Passports. Okay, and request sent. Okay, ID is 3 because we already have 2 entries in database. So third passport we just entered without mapping with any patient. There it is, right? So third entry is done, and it was really simple API, right? Nothing special about it because the class is really simple. If you look back to patient class, it just if you look back to passport class, it just has 2 fields. One is auto generated, not required, and one is just a field of long time. Okay, looks fine. So we are done with basic operation. Let's create one more endpoint, but before that, I want to add one requirement. Like, okay, so we have both endpoints ready. Both means for one for passport, one for patient. And I mean, again, I need to fetch one record, right? I want to fetch one record, and that might be a case that record is not there. So what will happen? So let's create one endpoint for that, for fetching record for patient. Then we will introduce that exception thing, so we can fill this empty package exception. Okay, so going back to patient, so closing all the passport classes, coming to passport controller, service for what controller, passport patient controller, and so DAO layer is fine. We don't need anything here. It remains empty as of now. And here in service layer of patient service, we need to add one more functionality, which is return one object, right? So we will say get patient, not patients, just one patient. And since we are just passing one, we want actually one record. So no need of object. You can just say long ID. That's it. And as soon as you do this, IMPL class starts complaining that I'm missing that method. Add it here. So hover, implement methods, and say okay. Here we are. So we are done with this thing as well. Okay. Now what? We need to add some code. So before that, let's create one endpoint. To save some time, I'm copy pasting. Just to know that, write your own code. Don't copy paste in your initial days. You will get enough time to copy paste. So this time patients, then I put slash curly brace. We are using path parameter, right? Path variable. This is not required. Remove, I'll say path variable long ID. Make sure that this is ID, so this should be also ID. So Spring Boot knows that this is we are referring. If you write something else, you will get error. It says get patient, and service is don't create. It says get patient and pass the ID here. Okay, endpoint looks fine. Now let's go back to IMPL. Let's fix it. So we just want to get from database. So we have already a patient DAO dot find by ID. There it is. Pass the ID, then it will return your object. Again, let me show you. Find by ID returns optional object. It won't give you object directly. It give you a layer or wrapper over it. So you have to create first of all optional class object, and then the type which is holded by optional is patient class. So patient, and then you can anything like say OP patient or optional player. Okay. Now I need to fetch data from there, but I need to first of all check does it has a data or not. So I'll put if condition if optional patient dot is empty, right? So I'll say return null. Otherwise, if it won't go inside in this if block, that means it has a data. So I can copy paste the stuffs from entity to D2. So we already know how to do that. So I'll say to patient mapper dot to D2. We have optional D2 patient. So let's get data from this optional class. As I said, find by ID, this method find by ID returns wrapper over your patient class. So you won't get your patient object directly. You have to fetch it from optional class. So how we do that? Use a reference, then say get. Once you say get, so you're saying wrapping up, or you can say you are unwrapping this optional class and getting your actual object. So now we have this object here, and now it's done. You can pass this patient class here, and once it's done it returns you detail. So patient dot uh, patient detail, sorry, not detail, response, and then return it. That's what you want. Return response patient, and done. Okay, so looks like everything is fine. Control is here, service is there, and I'm here. Okay, let's try this endpoint. API executed. Okay, and let's create one endpoint. Let's duplicate this one. This one. Duplicate. Move site. This will be get. Patient remains same. We don't need body, so make it none. And okay, and then slash ID1. ID1 is not there, I guess, because we failed our first request. ID2 and 3. So ID2. Request send. And if you notice, patient data is coming, plus along with that data your passport data is also coming, all because you have mapped your classes perfectly. So it's working, yeah, cool. And if I say 200, this is wrong, right? We are supposed to do something here, so we fix that by writing that exception thing. If ID is not there, so we will create that exception class, global exception handler. 3 request sent. Yep, third record is also coming. Fine. Oh, where is that record? One patient, one passport. We haven't saved this. Save one patient. I messed up it. Not save. It's get one patient in DB. Save as. Okay. My password. This has to be changed to save one patient in DB. Hmm. I'm delete this one. Yes. Save password. Get one password. And get. Okay. This happens when you duplicate stuffs. Okay. So be ready for that. I lost the data. No worries. Let's copy and paste. Remove ID. Okay, now better. Post get does not have anybody. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so our endpoint is ready. Now let's add that exception. So in case if we don't have any record, so how to handle that scenario. So going to create one custom exception which says patient record or something is not something. Patient ID is not found. So we'll create patient record not found. Okay, patient record not found except don't say patients. Okay, patient is fine. And okay, then say extends runtime exception class. Then we need to create constructors. So public one will be default. Always have it. Always have default constructor in your class. Okay, and one will have argument of string type. So we can pass our message, exception message specifically. And here we will do one thing, create one field, private, this exception message string type, string. Okay, and let's create one method. So in case if we need it future, we can get the exception detail. So I'll say get exception message and return that message from here. Okay, so our custom exception is ready. Let's create a global custom exception handler. So right click, new Java class. So this is not about passport or patient or in future when we create a new class. So it's global exception handler, right? It's not going to be specific to passport or patient or in future we are going to create multiple entity classes. So we'll just say wire exception handler, right? That's our application name. So we are calling it wire exception handler and here we'll mark it controller advice. It is essential. If you won't add it, it won't be recognized by Spring Boot that this is the class which will handle exceptions globally. Okay, it's done. Now time to create one response. So public, we need to create one custom class as well, right? For our response. So let's do this here, Java class, and we need to create some response class. So I'll just say API response. It's totally up to you guys. Whatever looks fine to you, you can add it. API response. And I'll keep the same structure like we did earlier. So I need to go back to previous project, which I closed. Recent project, this new window, API response. So I'll keep this sum, okay? Copied, pasted. Okay, class is ready. Now going back to um, this global class exception thing. I'll say public response entity. I don't need to explain it again. You guys already know aware about it. And here API response, and then I'll give a method handle that class or that exception name. Patient record not found. This one. I'll copy it as it is, and yeah, it's perfectly fine if you write this way and then grab it from here. That this is, let's just call it E, saving some space. And make sure that you are marking it at exception handler.
Exception handler.
Right, and then dot class. Now you need to fill all the details for your API response, then wrap it under response entity. So I need to create class of response API response, this, then new API response, then API response dot set. Oh, I haven't created certificate. Get the setter, all fields. Okay. I don't think I need to use toString, so that's fine. I need to set multiple things. So we are working on exception. That means we don't have any data. So I'll set data to null. API response dot set API timestamp. So I'll say new date from util package. Done. API response dot set error. We'll fix later. Path. We haven't seen that yet, right? Status. This is error. So let's try HTTP status if it works here, dot not found. Okay, but it need to string, right? So let's say to string or name value. Let's try with value. That's a int. Let's try this again. Okay, it will give you name. Okay, let's see what it returns. And then API response dot set error. Okay, so error is actually object. So need to create one object first, like we did earlier. Earlier means that map thing. Remember? Let me show you again. So in previous project, this was the handler, and this is what we did for map. So I'll do the same here as well. So copy, paste it. This time it's just E. It's coming from here. Then whatever coming up, I'll send that error map here. And then I haven't set the path. I'll tell you later how to set the path. You need to auto-wire one more class. From there you can get the uh, path and other stuffs. So mm, what's path? Okay, path for now empty. So keep that empty as it is. Set later. Hmm. Okay, it's done. And finally, we need to wrap up everything under response entity. So we'll say return response entity dot okay, then dot body, and body we have to pass API response and then semicolon. Okay, so it will handle the exception case. Okay, so now we need to throw this exception. So whenever exception gets thrown, it will handle it. Remember in core Java we learned try and catch. So if any exception gets thrown from try block, it always goes where? In catch block. Something similar happens here in your whole project. In I mean, it doesn't matter from which file. If your application is throwing any exception from anywhere, and if you have a proper mechanism, it will end up here. So this class will act as a catch block. So you're throwing your exception, and this class will handle it and generate its response. So you will never go back to your controller and throw some or show some any unexpected response. So if you throw any exception and if you have implemented it in proper way, so you, exception always get caught here. Okay, so we need to fix it here. So I'm trying to get that data is not there, it's empty. So okay, so this time I won't return, I'll say throw new patient not found record exception, and I need to tell what's missing. So I'll say patient with ID, then I'll give that ID. I'm not doing anything new much, so you guys will be on same page. Okay, this is what we already did in previous project. Something similar we are doing it, but with different entity, with different scenario. So patient with ID this is missing or invalid. Okay, we'll stop. So what we're doing, we're throwing the exception, and if everything goes fine, this exception get caught by that global exception handler, and then it will create its own response, and we can see some response on our postman. Okay, looks fine to me. Let's request the endpoint. Okay, application is up. That's the endpoint. If I request ID 3, so yeah, it looks fine, no issue. And now 300. It's not there in database. Request sent, and here it is. It says status not found, right? It's not hard coded. If you see, it's here. Okay, so not found is coming up. That's good. Then that's request time. Path we will do later. Data definitely. If you have exception, that means data is not there. So null. And then that's the issue. Why we are getting this kind of response. A patient with ID 300 is missing or invalid. So we are done with some basic CRUD of application, right? So what's your task is, guys? You have to add all the endpoints here, and right now I just have get and post. Same thing you have to do with other endpoint. Endpoint means other this mapper class. So we have done for patient. You guys have to do with passport as well. I don't have any exception for passport. At least create one. That's passport not found exception. And tomorrow class, in next
Sir,
class, we will try to add some other queries. Right now, so far we just saw our these interfaces were empty. So we need to put some requirement, and then we will start writing some code in DAO layer as well. Yes, tell me, what's the question?
सर एक बार आप ये पोस्टमैन ओपन करिएगा
Hmm.
और वहाँ पे सर एक वैलिड आईडी पास करें जो इन मतलब थ्री
Okay,
पेशेंट में
okay,
थ्री और सेंड
done.
ओके सर सर मैं देख वो स्टेटस नॉट फाउंड वाला सर और
अच्छा, ठीक है। तो ये था रिकॉर्ड और इसका स्टेटस नॉट फाउंड हो गया। अभी इसको फिक्स करेंगे बाद में, क्योंकि अभी
इससे
आपको मैंने बस एक ही तरीका बताया कि हाउ इट वर्क्स विद रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। इफ आई चेंज सो यू गाइस गेट कंफ्यूज। तो अभी तक मैंने कुछ ऐसा नया कोड ऐड नहीं किया, राइट? एवरीथिंग इज सेम। जस्ट हमने एक अलग एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट कर दिया है जिसमें हम एक वायरस और उसमें पेशेंट और ये सब डील कर रहे हैं। सो यू हैव टू डू द सेम विद योर ओन स्टफ। बट फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, कंप्लीट दिस कोड। जितना भी मैंने इसमें किया है इसको कंप्लीट करो। सारे पांचों एंड पॉइंट्स मुझे चाहिए। पांचों मीन्स लेट मी लिस्ट इट आउट। ओके। Okay, so what I have here, and I have added only two endpoints. Passport just got one, and when it comes to patient controller, so I have post request and get request for ID one, right? So what you guys have to do, you have to fill all the blanks. Blank means all the APIs which are not here. So complete that, and then we'll meet. So at least you will be on same page. Then we will start adding some new features or functionalities. Okay, so right now we have one-to-one mapping. So that's we did today, one-to-one mapping here. In next class we will try to perform one-to-many with patient and virus. Okay, so we need to create one more entity classes, and then it goes like that way. I'm not going to create all endpoints, it's your task. And I haven't fixed this on controller, is it just written, so you guys have to add response entity here as well, right? So I'll write down so you won't say, okay, we missed it or we didn't know. So next task is create all pending endpoints, then add response entity on controller. Okay, I think that this is more than enough for you guys for your Sunday. Hmm? So इतना करो। कोई क्वेश्चन डाउट्स so you guys can ask? नहीं है, अभी तक काम रिपीटेटिव है, कुछ नया नहीं करना, बस प्रैक्टिस करनी है थ्रू न्यू प्रोजेक्ट. So new functionalities what I have done so far, whatever we have done in last 7 or 8 days, we just concluded everything in our one page, right? So this comprises CRUD operations, exception handling, custom response, and mapping, right? You guys ask me, okay, so what we actually did here in last and this class. So we did basic CRUD ops, and we did um, custom response with exception handling, right? These are kind of mixed up, so I'm writing it together. Then we also did mapping, which is one to one. Okay, in short, I'm writing. So we did three big things here. Next class, we will do mapping one to many, which will be more critical. So you need more practice on it. And in upcoming classes, we'll create Swagger for that. Then we will create logging for the all endpoints. Once we are done with the basic requirements, then we will add Spring Security. So it will take at least 3 to 4 classes more to add all these functionalities. Fine. So this is what we did in this class, and try to cover up all the homeworks, whatever I'm given in previous in this class. And let's meet in next.
सर मतलब संडे को क्लास होगी या फिर नेक्स्ट वीक?
Mm, I'll see what I can do. Okay. So don't worry about that. I'll let you know in future. Okay. एडवांस में बता दूंगा मैं. ठीक है. Don't worry
ओके
about that.
सर.